All righty. So, good evening, everyone. My
Good
name is
evening.
Nikki Anthony, and I have a very special guest with me tonight. And I'm excited for you all to meet this person. He's been a part of my life all of my years. And I'm very excited for you all to meet him. I'm excited to share space with him and just to allow my Little Hands, Big Hearts family to see who's such an integral, part of my life. I'll let him introduce himself a little bit later, but first I will have him to share the mission statement of Little Hands Big Hearts. It's been a while since we've been together in this medium. So just to kind of reacclimate everyone to who we are, he's going to share our mission statement, and then we'll keep on moving on in our segment.
All right. Good evening. Little Hands, Big Hearts, Little People's Service Organization. The mission. The mission of Little Hands, Big Hearts, Little People's Service Organization is to develop little people into servant leaders who think beyond themselves for the greater good through explicit and intentional opportunities for character development, selfless service to others, and community-based volunteering.
Yes. And over the last year, probably year and a half, we've expanded to not just focus on little people, but also to focus on families and things, issues that impact families. So that is my heart. I've shared previously just my background in several fields that deal with children. So I worked in special education. That was 14 years. I worked in the DJJ system. I've worked in the DCF system, child welfare, excuse me. I've worked with children who were refugees and asylees coming into our country from war-torn countries and nations. So I have a broad experience. And so I've seen some things that I definitely feel led to kind of champion as far as children are concerned. I just want to give you a little background about this segment. So the title of it is What a Difference a Dad Makes. And my heart was to just highlight the importance of dads. I feel like, society kind of shines a negative light on dads, and dads don't always get the best rap in our society. And I had a good dad. I have a good dad. So I wanted to just kind of share a little bit of our experiences. Today is Valentine's Day, and this day particularly is very special to our family.
Yes.
We experienced as a family, myself, my dad, and my brother, we experienced a tragedy on Valentine's Day in 1999. We'll get into it a little more. For those of you who know me, you know what it was, but we'll share a little bit more later. The purpose of this was to highlight, of this segment is to highlight how important my dad has been and how integral he has been in helping me to become who I am today. And just moving forward, growing past the tragedies and the traumas that we've experienced as a family, me, myself personally, he has been integral in all of it. And I want to keep saying integral because that's exactly what he's been. He hasn't been, far off. He hasn't been distant. He hasn't been hands off. There's some things, we had to learn how to work through, but for the most part, like my dad has been there. He single-handedly put me through undergrad. I had some scholarships and all of that, but my dad, he was the push behind me finishing undergrad. He was the push when I was going through my master's program. Financially, I did that, but the encouragement for me to keep going, when I wanted to give up. And even in this doctoral program that I am completing, now I have about a year left as of today, a little over a year. And he has been just an encouragement. Some days I'm sitting and I'm doing homework and it's like, I go over to the house and it's so funny because I almost feel like I'm in high school again. He's like, did you eat today? Here, let me make you some food. I'm gonna do that, and those things just stick out to me, that when you're going through life, having the support of a dad, me having my dad's support and his champion and his voice, it just makes such a difference in my life. So I wanted to highlight the importance of dads. And no, it's not Father's Day, but we don't have to have one day to celebrate awesome dads. We don't. So that's the purpose of this segment. With that, I wanted to kind of share just I guess, an account, excuse me, of something that kind of it shaped how I saw my relationship with my dad. So in undergrad, my very last semester, I was taking a Spanish 3 class, and a young lady that was in the class with me, we were talking about work, and just in the middle of us talking about work, she blurted out, she was like, "You have a good relationship with your dad, don't you?" And I was like, yeah, I guess, don't we all? And the question, it struck me, but she began to explain. She was like, "You have a confidence that I know I don't possess." And I feel like that kind of confidence comes from the affirmation of a dad and you having your dad present with you. Because I know I don't possess it. And no, it doesn't have to be everyone, but I started to get what she was saying. And I started looking at my life, and it was more than her who I had heard say that. There were several other people, and since then, there's been plenty of people that say, "I can tell you and your dad are very close because your tenacity, your dogmatism, like you don't give up. You're strong, all these different things, your confidence, you don't let people tear you down, and all of that is true. And a lot of that stems from my dad and my relationship with him when I was younger, and as I've grown older, how it's been cultured. So that moment with one of my peers in Spanish 3 undergrad, it was just a defining moment for me to really recount and to appreciate the relationship that I have with my dad. He was a single dad at that point, and he has since gotten married. He's off the market. Okay. But I want to, yeah, he was a single dad and he was doing it by himself. For the most part, we had a big support system, so I won't take away from that. But he was our everything, So that is the purpose of this. As we get started, I will allow him to introduce himself. So, Daddy, tell everybody who you are. You could tell them a little bit about your upbringing. So, where you were born versus where you were raised, who you were born to versus who you were raised by. And then we'll kind of talk about if you feel like any of that influenced or impacted how you chose to raise Arlen and I. Arlen is my brother. Shout out. Hey, brother.
What's up, good boy?
And so we'll talk about that. But just tell people a little bit about who you are.
Well, Landis Anthony, that's my nickname. Landis' nickname, which I grew up with that in New York. Full name is Landis Anthony. Okay, I was born in Tennessee, about 30 miles east of Memphis, in rural Tennessee, Canadaville, Tennessee. It was a crossroads.
Shout out, family.
Yeah, all right, y'all. Hey, family. I was born to Will and Romelia Anthony. They were the parents of 16 siblings. I was number 6. And my father's sister, Carrie Neal, and her husband, they used to come down and they asked who wanted to go stay with them. And, my aunt told me later on she wanted a girl, but none of them didn't raise their hand. So, I raised my hand, I guess. And make a long story short, went to New York, and they raised me from basically when I was like 5. I went there when I was 4. Then I went back to Tennessee for like a year. Then I went back to stay permanently. And but I knew my father and my mother because my aunt would send me back to Tennessee every summer to experience that country life, and I loved it. I was like a Huckleberry Finn thing for me. I knew the best of both worlds, and so that was how I got to New York. And my aunt and my uncle raised me. They were great. My uncle was he wasn't hard, but he was firm. And I wasn't a hard-headed kid. As long as I did what I had to do, I was free to roam.
So
My aunt was loving.
tell them a little bit about what you did growing up. Any
Growing up well and
activities in school, anything like that?
Okay. Well, I like to stay outside. During our time, coming up in New York, in the suburbs, basically out in Long Island. That's where I grew up at. A little town called Glen Cove, North Shore of Nassau County, and played a lot of basketball and got into sports early age. Played Pop Warner football, and then I went on. Played basketball and junior high and football and all of that, all up through high school, and I played a little bit in college. Went to St. John's University for a little bit, but I didn't finish. I was doing other things, and my head wasn't really there. So I dropped out of that, and then I enlisted in the Navy in 1974. So from there, I did a Navy career, did 20 years. And while there, when I went back in the Navy in 79, that's when I stayed because I had got out for a little bit. And I had met my first wife from Georgia, little town, rural Georgia. We got married and we had my daughter first, and I wanted a daughter, and God gave me a daughter. And then we had my son. And we were married almost, would have been 20 years of that June, but she died some months before on Valentine's Day from breast cancer. So that was a heavy experience right there.
So do you see any parallels between yourself, your early life, and mine?
Ooh, that's parallels. Well, she liked to travel. I can't say I was liking to travel. I went over all those countries around the world. I went over probably almost half of the world. God bless me. My first ship was we was showing the flag from 74 to 78. And even after that, my second ship, I went to places I dreamed of. And, maybe she got that bug. Seeing I used to bring back different things, coins, scarab, stuff from Egypt. And I tell them stories about where I went, and
we learned voodoo songs from.
I got that from the movies. They try to prank me, which I was teaching them voodoo. That wasn't it. That stuff came off of Tarzan movies. That chant.
Talk about juju. Yeah. Okay. I would say sports. Sports is a parallel because my dad, he raised a competitor. So if you know me, you know that I'm very competitive. Like I go hard to win. I mean, I know how to do it in reason, but if I want to win, if I'm ready to win, like I'm going to win. And so he raised a competitor. He played basketball. I played basketball. Football. I did flag football. I was the quarterback and the wide receiver at the same time. Go me. I was a bad girl. Yes, I was.
She's a little fast too.
I was. I did track. I did track and field for several years. Let me see. I did swimming. I did soccer. So yeah. What about your superlatives? What was your superlative in school?
When I was in school, my superlative was the best smile.
So I had something similar. I didn't find out until like after I was nominated that my dad was best smile. Mine was friendliest. So that was mine. So I feel like that's similar, parallel. Musically inclined. I taught he's a guitar player. I taught him everything he knows.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I taught him everything he knows.
You might have seen one of her compositions on Facebook.
You hater. Whatever. Okay, you don't want to give me my props because I'm the prodigy.
That's right.
You don't want to give me my props. Okay, so let's move on. How would you describe our relationship? You can share and then I will share. How would you describe our relationship?
I think our relationship is really good at this time in our lives. We went through some bumpy times. I had to learn to listen to her. I came from another era. Um, when grown ups says, hey, listen to what I'm saying. I don't want to hear what you're saying. So I had to learn that, and I'm still learning. Even with my grandkids, she'll school me like, Daddy, you gotta listen to what he's saying. Don't chump them off. Like I said, I'm from another era where you be in the room, you touch your mouth. So you look over there at you like, and you knew that was it. So I had to learn that that our relationship could grow, and I understand that she's grown, and let her grow. And I had to grow. I had to grow in it. So to understand, look, it's she has something to say. You gotta listen. She got feelings, so you just can't chump it off. Okay, that's about it.
I feel like we have definitely a strong relationship. I feel like we always have. You go through stuff, but the purpose of going through is to grow through. And I feel like we have learned and continue to learn the grow through part. Yeah. And that it has helped us to become stronger, I know, as I've gotten older. So I feel like we have a very strong relationship. And people still note, to me, just how much they love my dad. Like all my life, my friends have, Nicole, how's your dad? That's the first thing a lot of them ask me. I haven't seen people in years, and it's like, but how's your dad doing? Wait, first ask about me. But they always is usually, that's the first question. Usually is, how's your dad doing? Because they know how present he was, and he has been like almost like a surrogate to a lot of my friends. Like they, would ask questions and all of that. So yeah, so I feel like we have a strong relationship. Let's see, let me think of a good one. If you could do one thing differently with regards to parenting, what would it be?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I would have not been too strict. I think I was a little strict on certain things, especially when I really got into the church, and some things I took, well, it's literally, but I went too hard in the beginning, and then I was teaching in the church, and then just understanding, look, you got to cool out, I wasn't a staunch disciplinarian. I can't remember the times I gave her a spanking. My son was a little different story, Hey, son, it did it all in love. But anyhow, I would have did that differently. And with my grandchildren, I have 4 of them now. I'm not. They say I'm easy on them, but I'm a granddad. You do it different. You learn better. So I would not have been so staunch in certain stuff. Certain stuff I still am. I talk to my grandkids. I give them straight up stuff, especially the age the older ones are. I want to put in them some solid foundation. So when they get old, just like Nicole and my son, they had some solid foundations. Sometimes I took it to a little deep, I guess they would say.
And did.
Well, that's what dads do. We have a roadmap in God's word, but we human. The human side kick in even on dads, and we don't have to have all the answers, and we make mistakes. So, but that's about it.
Okay, that's a good one. Yeah, He was very, very, very strict. And a lot of people don't believe me.
No, I'm very, very.
Yes, he was. Like, we couldn't listen to certain music. He used to be like, cut that junk off.
Well, sometimes you got these shocks. It was a shock to me.
Whatever. We would listen to like bad stuff.
Yeah.
I remember one time he might say like, yeah. So one time, this is when I was quote unquote taking company, right? And
Oh, here we go.
So
how old was you then?
So what? I still did it.
How old was you?
I was 15.
Okay, there we go.
And so this guy, my dad's like,
15.
okay, you can only have someone to come over. Like, you're not going to go out. Okay, fine, whatever. So the guy comes over, and long story short, it was like my whole family is there. Like, that's creepy, right? I guess it's old fashioned, but whatever. And long story short, my dad was like, you ain't gonna have sex. You ain't gonna do this. You ain't gonna do this.
That's what dads do.
And I'm standing there like,
we know.
We sitting in the house, like, we ain't going nowhere, man. What are you talking about? And so I was so embarrassed. I remember running in the bathroom, and I just laid on the floor crying because I was so embarrassed. Yes, I did.
Oh,
yes.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, because he wasn't trying to hear that. He was in a whole nother world,
right.
whole nother
I'm
place.
trying to protect my daughter because dads know because we was dudes, young dudes one time. That's just how it go.
Whatever. That was one of them strict, overbearing, took too far moments. Yeah. So, yeah. How about this one? What's one lesson that you tried to drive home with me that maybe you feel like, oh, she's got it, or I just want her to still get it? Now, long story, short story, I recently turned 40. So is there a lesson that you feel like, oh, she got it, that's my girl, or that's my girl, she got a little bit of it, but I want her to keep on going because I don't quite see it there?
Well, and I've told her this before, her confidence. Sometimes she just don't have confidence in herself. And all she's accomplished in these 40 years, from a little girl, she told me stuff. I didn't take it to heed at the time. A young girl, probably 8 or 9. And she always chronicled stuff. She, and she wrote her first book. Hey, y'all, she got a book out there, and it's popping. She got some stuff in there I didn't know. But get that book. I'm sure she can, put it out there where you can order it at.
Mm-hmm.
But she chronicles stuff from a young girl. She used to be in her rooms, chronicling. I used to go looking at, okay, that's something I wish I had it done. But anyhow, that's another story. But her confidence, and I think it's gotten better, because she's accomplished so much, and people will say, "Man, your daughter is so and so and so and so," and I shake my head, yeah, but I know she can do it because she's already done great things, But I would tell her, you judge the future by your past.
Mm-hmm.
And much is given, much is required. And she's took the challenge over and over again. When she went to college, the math stuff was giving her super problems.
Mm-hmm.
And I thank God for her mom, sort of prepared her, because I didn't really do nothing for her as far as her, when she was going to college. A lot of stuff was done. She had done a lot of pre-work, and mom had schooled it. She got a lot of grants, scholarships, and here and there I had to plug in some things, for monetarily, but that math was kicking the butt. And I encouraged her, Daddy, I don't know if I can. I said, you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
You can do it. She got through that, graduated. She said she's gonna travel the world, and you know what? She traveling it, and she ready to go some more,
mm-hmm.
and be mighty in it. And what she's on her vocation, she her studies. What was your studies? Your major was what? International studies. Yeah.
Undergrad.
She trying to be like me, an international dude. But She getting there. She got the paper.
Whatever.
Okay. I went to them places. But anyhow, that's the biggest thing,
Mm-hmm.
of confidence that I want to encourage her. Just, you already did it. You're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Go forward.
Mm-hmm.
The victory is hers.
Rate yourself. Rate yourself as a dad. So on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being, oh my God, you really suck. And 10 being, oh my God, you the jump. You got the duet, daddy.
Okay.
What would you rate yourself?
Okay. I say I'm in the high 8s to the 9s, and then sometimes I hit 100. That's right.
So 10 out of 10.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
so sometimes you can't be 100%,
Mm-hmm.
but you strive to be.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you fall.
Mm-hmm.
You might fall on that day, be 40. I don't know. It depends what it is. But I would say I'm the high 8s to the 9s, and some 100s sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Okay. I would agree with that. I would say consistently like a 9. And that's only because, like I said, I believe in growing.
Yeah.
So I like to leave space and room for growth. I feel like when you feel like you've hit the mark, a lot of times that becomes stagnation and complacency. And there's no place in life for that. Like you should always be in a place of growing.
Yes.
And learning and maturing and developing.
Yes.
So I would say he's like consistently about a 9. Yes, he has some definite 10 out of 10 days and
right.
moments. And we celebrate those days, but we get back to, the greater reality of keep growing and keep moving forward.
Keep grinding.
Yeah. Okay. So I kind of want to get into something a little more personal to our family, being that it is Valentine's Day. So on Valentine's Day of 1999, that's when my mom, his first wife, my mom passed away. And that was just it was a defining moment for all of us. I feel like I've learned over the years that our experiences from that day were of dealing with that single trauma, that single tragedy. Like we've had varying experiences as a dad, as a daughter, and then my brother as a son. So I kind of want to talk about that and this idea of being in family, being in relationship, and how you take moments like that and you grow from them. You don't stay stuck and you don't just fall apart and unravel, even in the midst of tragedy. So just really quickly, can you tell what sticks out most to you about that day? And I'll share, what sticks out to me. But if you want to, you can start. What sticks out most to you about February 14, 1999?
Well, I like to say this. I had no idea that the Lord was going to call her home that day. Took her to the hospital early that morning on Valentine's Day, probably around 2 or 3 in the morning. Got an emergency room. They said they'll stabilize her, just get in the room, and she's going to be all right. So make a long story short, in the room with her, we were talking. I was just talking to her alongside a bed, and I was just talking to her, and she was just, Then all of a sudden, she took 3 long breaths, and on that third one, she blew it out. In my spirit, I knew she was gone, and at that time I guess I pushed the button for the nurses to come in there. They rushed her out, and I guess they went and worked on to try to revive her and stuff. But in myself, I knew she was gone. That stood out. I was in a cloud. I was like in a cloud, and they brought Nicole and Arlen there. My pastor, my bishop came, and his wife, and he did something that day. He told me to go over there and hug them. And I remember that moment.
I remember that.
And I was like, wow. I had no idea she was leaving here. had no idea. And it's strange because that day before we had prayer in the bedroom. You know, she was going through the cancer treatment, breast cancer, and she had lymphedema.
Mm-hmm.
It used to give her all kind of trouble, the pain and stuff. You know, that the fluid in her arm and stuff like that. She used to get treatments, and Nicole used to go and sit with her
Mm-hmm.
when she had their treatments. And we prayed. It was our sisters and Nicole, and we just we prayed, and she was lifting up her arm. She couldn't even lift that arm up. And that was the day before, that Saturday before that Valentine's Day. And then myself, I said, "Oh Lord, the Lord didn't heal her."
Mm-hmm.
I was just that confident.
Mm-hmm.
And in her passing, I had to ask God. I said, "God, you know, why did you do that? You know, what happened?"
Mm-hmm.
And He gave me snapshots when she was telling me she was tired.
Mm-hmm.
He gave me 2 snapshots because she used to always say, "Look, you need to learn how to do these bills." You know, because she did the bills, I could have did them. I would have did it differently. You know, write checks out and stuff like that because she couldn't really write. So, from what I understand, she used to have Nicole.
I was great at forgery.
Yeah,
great.
Do the checks, for the bills and stuff like that. And but when she was telling me, "Look, I'm tired,"
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see it.
Mm-hmm.
All I was saying, "Baby, you know, just keep fighting, keep fighting." But I wasn't there in the day. I go to work and I come home, and she'd be on the couch sometimes, just rocking back and forth, rocking. And sometime she'd get up at night, out the bed and go into the living room, and I'd hear her in there, just praying God to take the pain away.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd pray, and I wouldn't go in that with that. I'd just be praying, saying, "Lord, help, take the pain away."
Mm-hmm.
So that was a big experience, and the Lord had to show me she was ready.
Mm-hmm.
We want to keep people here that are in pain, but I learned when they're ready and they talk to God, and nothing we can do.
Mm-hmm.
If they want to go, and God honors that, and He did it quick. She wasn't in the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first time she ever got hospitalized.
Yeah.
And it wasn't hours, and she was gone. Took her there that morning by 12, 1 or so, she passed away.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I thank God for that. Not that she passed, but she wasn't.
She didn't suffer.
Laid up in the hospital for months and whatever.
Mm-hmm. Okay. For me, what sticks out most about that day, I thought I was going to say some other stuff, but I remember you hugging Erlen and I. And I feel like that hug was like a reassurance, like we are going to get through this together. We're getting better. I feel like we're growing in this area of, affection and all of that.
Yeah.
So we weren't a huggy family. And that's probably why that sticks out, to you and to me as well. Just because I felt like the reassurance of like, Daddy got us, is hard. I don't want him to be in this position because I don't want to be in this position of, part of your unit is gone. But it's like he held us together, me and my brother. He held us together. So that does stick out to me as well. What were some things that you feel kept you moving forward as a single dad after Mama passed away?
Well, I tell you, the biggest thing was my church family.
Your faith.
Getting encouragement in my faith, and knowing that God would take us through this time.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard because it was plenty of days after that I cried like a baby.
Mm-hmm.
But I had to get it together. I had one of the elders in our church, Elder Davis. He would call me sometime, and he worked at NES Jacks, and I was retired. But I was working, but I'll be off in a couple of days. He said, "Come on, have lunch with me." And I go, after NH Jackson, where we go, we meet and just talk. I'd be doing all the talking. He ain't really say nothing after I realized it, but that was release for me.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't understand it, and I really didn't.
Mm-hmm.
So that helped me, in a church family, you know, uh, Nicole was in school, and my son, we were living together, and so our relationship sort of took a sharp turn to the left uh, because of the death of his mom,
Mm-hmm.
and I had to understand that. And
can I interject right here?
Go ahead.
And I kind of shared it earlier, just being mindful, in your relationships, that trauma sometimes and oftentimes impacts us way more and deeper,
Mm-hmm.
And harder than what we think or we consider,
Yeah.
So it took me years to figure out and to realize that I had experienced trauma in losing my mom. And I was kind of a forerunner. I took the mental health route. So for me, it took years, and I mean almost 20 years for me to get to that point. And so if you experience, not if, when, because life happens. Yes, life happens.
Yes.
When you experience things in life as a family, I think it's just a good thing to know that trauma does have an impact in different ways on different people, according to the relationship that you had with, like if it's a loss or it's death, according to the relationship that you had with the person who passed away, the experiences that y'all shared prior to the death, the circumstances of why that person passed away, if it was tragic, if it was, terminal illness, if it was, murder, whatever, like all of that plays a part. So you just have to be mindful. I have become an advocate of mental health, especially in the Black community, because I feel like, it's been such a taboo in the Black family, Black community, and so I push, I always encourage people to take the mental health route. Like you can be, in church and all of that, but you can still have Jesus and go to therapy. You can do both, so if you don't believe in Jesus, I still believe that you can be whatever you believe that, but also go through mental health counseling, through therapy. So I just want to throw that in there, that trauma impacts us in different ways. So when you think that, your little one, your little person in your family, like they don't have feelings, that's a lie. That's a lie. And I think we do our babies a disservice when we don't give them space to share how they feel about something that has happened. So I just want to encourage you, don't cut their voice off. When things happen in the family, give them space to use their voice, give them space to share how they feel, what impacted them and why. Give them space to do that, because I think that is pivotal when you experience trauma and tragedy in growing forward versus staying stuck. So
I just like to add about the mental counseling. My daughter invited me because she was going to counseling, and I didn't really know it was, that deep. I expected her because she was older and she was more, I see, more spiritual than my son, who's younger than her, could handle it. And I thought she was handling it, but I didn't know. So I went to this counseling, and I opened my eyes up, and she broke down, and she just told me, that, because I went to counseling with my son, but she was going to school, college at the time. And I didn't really even think about her going to counseling because I just thought she had it together, which, like you said, it affects us differently. My son, he held in a lot of animosity towards me because he thought that I had said some things, about dealing with his mom. So, but we found out later, and I had explained to him, and I explained to my daughter, when we went to this counseling, look, I didn't know, but it helped me out to understand, the counseling part. Like she said, you gotta have Jesus and everything, but get some counseling. So
yeah,
get it,
definitely.
get it.
Yes. And he's talking about like I said, it took me about 20 years before I understood. So from the time my mom passed away, 1999, I started counseling, active counseling in 2018. So almost 20 years before I realized, and I was diagnosed with PTSD and depression at that point. And that's why I say it impacts you in so many different ways. So the sooner you get support, if you need it for your little people, the sooner you get support, probably the more well off they will be earlier on. They won't struggle so much with the confidence, with the, wondering if they're loved, if they're valued, all of that in their childhood. They'll grow in ways that they know early on, and they consistently know who they are and that they are valued. So just want to plug that. We can move on. So I feel like so often I kind of shared that single moms are lauded in society, for tenacity, they get the job done and whatever. And that's great. I won't take anything away, but I didn't have a single mom. I had a single dad. So I kind of want to talk about, or I want you to talk about, what do you wish people knew about life as a single father raising kids? Is there anything that kind of sticks out to you that, someone looking at this broadcast were to listen to this and they say, oh, I know such and such, and that person is a single dad. What do you want them to know about being a single dad? Maybe how to support people who are men who are single dads.
Well, I would say one of the main things is be there for your children. Mm-hmm. As a single dad, having her, she's my daughter. I can be there to support her in certain stuff, but she needs a woman's point of view also. And I can't give her that. So, friends or sisters, aunties can give her that part. As far as for being a single dad for a son, I can give him, a male's point of view on certain stuff. And I would say, listen to the sage people. Mm-hmm. Maybe people have lost a loved one or a mother, being raised by a single dad or so, and just get some pointers and some ideas on how to do it, because there ain't no book on it. There's no book on it, and pray. Because many days I prayed. I said, Lord, I can't do this alone. I really sent up a lot of prayers during that time, and still are. You just be there for them. Mm-hmm. Right or wrong, be there. When they're wrong, tell them. When they're right, laud them and love them. Mm-hmm. Yes. Mm-hmm.
So I want to go kind of backwards. What do you wish people knew about being a single father? Like, do you feel like it was a learning process for you? Well, I would imagine it was a learning process.
Oh, yeah.
Like you were a dad, but now you kind of had to shift roles,
Mm-hmm.
Because so what do you wish people knew about that? Maybe family, how family interacts with the single dad. What do you wish people knew about that?
Well, I had a lot of support. Their mother, their sisters supported me and gave me advice here and there. They were always there, and they're still out there even today. The two of them that are left. My sister, my older sister, who's passed away years ago.
2 years ago.
So she gave me a lot of advice, and some of it I took from her. But it was sage advice. A lot of it concerning my daughters, concerning my son, and because she's a big advocate of counseling. Mm-hmm. She was very big in it, and as a matter of fact, she was a Christian counselor, but she did the regular counseling also. She did it all. She gave me a lot of good advice. So get advice, because something like that happen. You lose your loved one, especially your significant other. that's traumatic.
Mm-hmm.
It was traumatic. I probably needed some one-on-one counseling.
Mm-hmm.
And when I look back on it, sit down on that couch and just blurt it out. And they can't come with the questions. I guess I had some in a certain ways with Elder Davis.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So
what I hear you saying is that you wish people knew like the importance of extended family or continuing that family structure.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So I agree with that
You
because
got to have that.
yeah.
Like I said, family's everything.
Mm-hmm.
Family's everything. When you can't go nowhere else, you can go home.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
I feel like we grew, like our family grew too. So it wasn't just our blood relatives. Like family extended into church family. For our family, it might be something different for people who are looking and viewing this. But for us, it was church family. For me, it extended into, people that I met in school that I'm still close with now,
Yeah.
So I feel like family, is everything, and it is defined in different ways, but it's so important to have that kind of that tight knit support system, when you go through tragedy.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's something he saw as a single dad, but that supported us, as he was raising us, just the importance of having family there. And I kind of talk about that in my book. You read about the Great Barrier Reef, like you have this support. Yeah, you have this support that, is kind of in place when the onslaught of life hits you. So these people shield you, and they might can't keep everything away from you, but their support will definitely keep you from being just overwhelmed by life. Their love keeps you going when you don't want to go anymore. Their support keeps you moving forward when you really want to stop and give up. So support, and family support of any kind, not just your immediate family and blood relatives, friends that became family is so important. So okay. I want to talk about disappointments because I think it's just something, especially as you get older and you start to learn or you unlearn things that you thought were law, and you find out later on as you deal with people and you grow and your relationships change, like, no, that was wrong. So how would you encourage a parent, a dad, raising their children in the way of dealing with disappointments that they experience with their children? And then I want to kind of share things that I've learned, because children, we experience disappointment with our parents as well, if we're being honest, and I feel like the older you get, like, you should be able to voice and vocalize those things. So as a parent, how do you deal and how have you dealt with, disappointments? And I'll share mine as well.
No, you asked me disappointments in my life or
no, with us.
Oh, with you all. I don't know if I was disappointed with you per se. I have to go back to the confidence thing again with you. Because that was ongoing. It's been ongoing. Even now, what you're doing the doctoral stuff. But you attack it. You just get back on the horse all the time. With my son, different disappointments, but I still encourage him, even to this day. I said, "Boy, you got to get it." That's what I tell him. That's what dads do. You got to hang in there. That's what we do. That's what you got to do. So I encourage that disappointment that with maybe with him. Remember, I disciplined a little chastisement. Maybe little bit hard sometimes.
But he's doing well. So go back to
our relationship now. It's still growing, as well as hers and ours. Mine still growing, because you never stop being a parent. I don't care if you get 104 years old and they 80 or whatever. You're still a dad. and, or you still a mom, whatever. They still your kids, so you want the best for them. I want the best for them. I tell them all the time, I want you better than me, do better, and then the things that you say I'm not where they, sort of shortfalling in, give them some advice. Now, will they take it? Hopefully, if it's good advice, they'll take it. But they got to find their own way. She got to find her own way, That's about it on that.
Well, I feel like, like I said, that children experience disappointments also. And so I feel like one thing I have learned is the concept of grace and giving people space to grow, that you don't mentally, I can't keep, that person. So in this case, my dad at the point of a mistake, or something that I feel like, is an offense to me. I have to give him space to grow. But in that, I feel like that's where you strengthen your relationship through communication, me being able to, and giving me space to share, like, oh, this hurt my feelings, this disappointed me, this bothered me, this offended me, whatever the case may be. But just giving people space to grow, I want that same in return, but you have to give it also. So you can't, want people to act graciously with you, but you're not willing to act graciously with people. So that's one that I feel is important for me. Just giving people space to grow and dealing with the disappointments. And that's one that I've had to learn, especially during counseling. That was probably the biggest lesson, one of my biggest takeaways from going through active counseling for 3.5 years. It was, you can't make people do anything. You cannot make anyone do anything, your parents included. All you can do is set boundaries that are appropriate for you, where you feel safe. And boundaries kind of dictate how far people come into your life or where you keep them in your life, So learning boundaries also taught me grace as well. So that would be mine. We are down to the wire. I want to talk a little bit about rituals. So rituals are tasks or engagements that you have with someone or with people that establish and build relationship and connection, right? So I want to kind of talk about share what your most memorable rituals were with myself and with my brother Arlen. What were some memorable ones for you?
Well, we always had dogs, and we had this one dog. He was a one family dog. His name was Pluto. And I just put them in the truck, and I take them like on a weekend, like a Saturday or something like that, or just maybe in a weekday, just to walk on the east side of Jacksonville. That's a little rough over there. So I want them to see the other side of town. And we walk over the east side and just go up down the street. And, they look kind of, like, what are we doing over here type thing, I wanted them to see, okay, that's where you stay at, and these are people too, but just the other side. Also, I used to take them to the ditches and get these minnows.
Ringworms.
Yeah, get out of here. These minnows we had some fish, and I didn't know that they was Oscars. I didn't know nothing about Oscars, but they ate other fish up. That fish got big. Then he started eating the other fish that was in the tank. I didn't even know. But I would go in the ditch to catch minnows and stuff like that, feed them to the Oscars. And that was stuff like that. And she'll probably chime in on playing Anaconda and Tiger. We'd be on the floor, we'd be romping around, and that's when they was smaller. That was great times for me. Just doing that.
Well, yeah, that's one of mine also. Well, those are a few of mine. So definitely Anaconda, and my brother could talk about Anaconda. It was just a fun time, and it's like, relationship building, all of that, like wrestling, fighting, whatever. I was a tomboy as a little girl. I was definitely a tomboy. Yeah, I would talk about the food. Like we had certain things that were just really special to our family. And if you know, it was things that my dad started. So one of them was called Scuba Doop. Scuba Doop is one of his specialties.
That's right.
And all it is ice cream, some milk, and some kind of cookie that he just mashes all up.
Put it all together.
And people when they come over, we talk about Scuba Doop, we talk about bug juice. That's Kool-Aid, but we call it bug juice. And so
Navy term. That's all it is.
Yeah. Swabbing the deck Saturday mornings after we had to fall in, come to the mess hall. All is Navy terminology. We had to swab the deck, so we had to clean. So those are some of the rituals that stick out in my mind that built connection. And as we end, take 30 seconds. What's one wish that you have for me as a daughter? And I'll share my one wish for you as a dad. 30 seconds.
My main wish.
Don't be funny.
No, this is real. That the Lord would send her husband.
Okay, enough of that. My main wish.
I can't say nothing else.
No, that's it.
But that's the main one right there.
Okay, whatever. My main wish is that you would continue growing as a dad, as a husband, as a granddad, and as the leader of our family. That you would continue growing and being an example and being light to everybody that knows you. So that's mine. We are getting ready to end. I want to say thank you all for joining us for this candid conversation. We do hope that you have gotten something from it. I hope that, dads with daughters, that you just become more intentional about loving your baby girl.
Hug them.
Yes, hug them, love them,
right.
Nurture. Don't try to raise her like she's a boy. She's a girl.
Yeah.
Please don't. Just love your baby girl. Love her. Make sure that you are present. Make sure that you affirm her with your words. Yeah. And that's about it. Stay tuned. We'll have more stuff coming up as an organization. But I just want to say thank you all for joining us tonight. We hope you enjoyed yourself. And we wish you well. Y'all have a good one.
Thank you all.